Now I'm going to talk about different softwares that I use to help find airline award space. There's a really powerful slate of tools out there that you can use, and I'm going to tell you the ones that I've used in the past. But before we do that, I'm going to give you just a few things to remember. No software has perfect information. So most airlines don't optimize their websites for award travelers. Naturally, they want you to pay cash. So just be aware that sometimes they're not going to say everything that is the actual truth, not because they're doing it intentionally, but because their websites have glitches and things like that. This especially happens with some of the international carriers. Phantom award space exists, so sometimes, it has never happened to me that I'm aware of. I don't know, maybe once or twice. You'll see a flight that comes up and then all of a sudden it won't be available anymore as soon as you actually try to book it. And that's either because somebody else booked it or because the airline never had the award space in the first place and their website still showed that they had it. So just be aware that it's not a perfect world. Switch an airport, stay a little longer, you can save a ton. For example, if you were to fly from Tokyo into Asheville, North Carolina, it would cost you 250,000 miles in business class. If, however, you were to fly from Tokyo to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a 2-hour drive away, it would cost you 110,000 miles in business class. My advice, fly into Charlotte, rent a car, save 140,000 miles. There are lots of exceptions. Every time I feel like I've got the airline award game figured out, I realize that there's something I didn't know and there's a flight that I couldn't book for some reason, and I'll give you an example that I saw recently. If you wanted to go from Houston to Sydney, you could, because Turkish Airlines was releasing award space for these flights. Naturally, I thought, well, I'll just get on the flight from Houston to Turkey, and then from there, I'll jump off to another destination. Well, in this case, Turkish Airlines was only releasing the space if you booked both segments together. You could not book them individually. Kind of a weird rule, but just something to be aware of, that there's different logic behind when they release seats and if it's a paired segment or if it can be booked individually. I'm not exactly sure the science behind it, but just know that there's a lot of exceptions. This one is really important. You need to think in segments, not trips, when it comes to award travel, and I'll show you why. The flight that we just talked about from Tokyo to Asheville, North Carolina, 250,000 miles, or Tokyo to Charlotte for 110,000 miles. Now, if you were to just simply look, you would realize that they both are offering the same flight from Tokyo to Chicago. That flight is available in business class for their Saver Award price. The flight that's not available is their flight from Chicago to Asheville. So because that one does not have the Saver Award price, they're charging you the first class flight for the whole segment. Whereas if instead you would just fly from Haneda to Chicago and then get off the plane, get on the same plane to Asheville, book a separate flight in first class, if you so desire, you could save some money by booking an economy, you would book these two separate segments and you would save 110,000 miles by doing that instead of booking them as one. Because you would be booking one flight in the Saver Award category and another flight in the regular award category, rather than booking both in the regular award category because one is not available in the Saver Award category. Remember that all airlines, in most cases, have different rates for the same flights. So just because you see a flight and you think it's bookable, you might want to check other programs to see if they also have the space and then try to book it if their rates are better for that specific flight. Here's a flight from Washington, D.C. to London overnight. In business class on United is 80,000 miles. If you book the same flight on Air Canada, it would be 60,000 miles. Here's another example flying the other direction to Honolulu. You would pay 25,000 miles on United, 22,500 on Air Canada, and you would pay 34,800 on Virgin Australia. Life Miles is also a Star Alliance partner, and because I see this on 2 Star Alliance partners, I'm assuming it is available to all Star Alliance partners to book, but Life Miles does not show this flight specifically, so I would need to call them to make that booking. Another partner that is not showing the award space, but probably has it, is Turkish Airlines. Turkish Airlines allows you to book any flight within the contiguous United States, Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands for 10,000 miles. way cheaper than United is offering it, Aeroplan, and Virgin Australia. So in this case, I would call Turkish Airlines, I would have a conversation with them, make sure they can see the award space, then I would transfer my miles to Turkish Airlines and book it with them. Even though I can't see it online, I know the space exists because I can see it on their partners. So just because it's not on the website does not mean that it doesn't exist. When you're on the phone, remember that not all customer service agents are equally skilled. Some of them, it's their first day and they don't know that if you just try to pair two segments together, maybe they would look individually for the flight from DC all the way to Honolulu and it wouldn't show up on their system. But if you ask them and say, can I book the flight from DC to New York, to Newark Airport? And they would say, oh yeah, I see that space. Okay, now can I book the flight from Newark to Honolulu? Oh yeah, I see that space. Okay, can you put them together? Yes. If they say no, I would call back. Sometimes I've done this 2 or 3 times until I get an agent who knows what they're doing and they can say, oh yeah, I've got the space for you, and they book the seat. Where there's a will, there may be a way. Sometimes it's increasingly frustrating because you try, and you're not able to get the seat that you want. In most cases though, it works out well and you're able to find the seats that you need as long as you do some good searching. Remember that things change and you don't have to sweat it. Airlines are going to change their award charts. They're going to say this flight is more expensive. Sometimes, in some cases, flights will even become less expensive. It's okay, just find an airline that works for you. There are still a lot of great deals out there to be had. You just have to find them. Remember the points princess. Not only is she loaded with transferable currency, which hopefully you are by this point, she's flexible with her dates and destinations, unafraid of last minute travel, flying solo. I'm not, but she's the points princess. I'm not. She's global in her travel plans and she is looking for the next great deal. So let's show you how to look for the next great deal. The first software I want to show you, and the one that I originally got started with, is called Expert Flyer. Expert Flyer, I'm not going to do a real deep dive into it because it's pretty complicated and it's pretty advanced. It also doesn't have significantly better features than the other softwares that I'm going to show you. Just be aware that these are the kinds of awards you can track with Expert Flyer. You can go on their website and see it may be worth a subscription, particularly if you have like Alaska Airlines. You can set the alerts, but they're just a little bit more complicated to deal with. I would probably recommend going with another software. But that's Expert Flyer. It is one of the well-known softwares in the space, and I wanted to show it to you in case it's useful at some point. The software that I use the most is called Seats.aero. That's not Seats.aero.com, that's Seats.aero. And here's why I love it. Because there are so many different ways that you can search a broad range of dates and a broad range of airports. Other softwares might be more accurate and they may have more airlines, but it takes a long time to do the individual searches themselves. Whereas with something like Seats.aero, you can look up all of the major airports in the United States, or you can look up all the airports on the East Coast, or you can look up all the airports on the West Coast, and you can search going to Europe, you can search going to Asia, you can search going to the, do they have one? Yep, they have one for the Caribbean. And I want to go sometime around spring break, and I need 2 seats for my family, and I care about, I'll give it a 14-day window. So when I search this, it's going to pull up just a host of data on this specific route, and it's going to do it relatively quickly compared to searching 14 different days on each side of this date and all of these different airports on different softwares. Now, remember that we're looking for segments. So we're looking for the major airports first, knowing that we can likely get to one of those major airports even if we have to pay cash if the deal is good enough. So I'm not going to start by looking at my small airport first. Maybe it's Boise, Idaho. I'm going to look for flights out of Denver, out of Portland, out of Seattle, out of San Francisco, out of Salt Lake City, out of LAX, because I know I can likely jump over to one of those airports and then catch a flight out. But if I just search for availability from Boise, Idaho first, it's going to take me a long time because it's going to say, you can't get that flight because all the flights are out of Chicago. Well, you can get to Chicago if the deal is good enough and you're going to save enough money. So start by looking at the big airports first and then work your way backwards from there. That's how I approach it. I'm going to take out the Caribbean because it's really, really cheap. So we'll take a look here. You can see in economy, you can go from Boston to London Heathrow for 6,000 points. plus $72 in taxes and fees. That is a ridiculous deal. Boston to London Heathrow. Delta's also offering it for 10,000 miles, but $217 in taxes and fees. So not as good of a deal there. If I search this flight in business, you can see 58,000 points, but $500 in taxes and fees. So if I want to see the best deal I can possibly get in business, they're all the Virgin Atlantic. Let's see. Let me get away from Virgin and I will just go to Air Canada. Let's look for all the rest, because sometimes if you're just trying to find the best deal, Emirates here. Okay, yeah, you can go from DC to Germany. You can go from New York to Zurich. You can go from JFK to Frankfurt to Poland, IAD to London Heathrow. And again, it kind of depends what points you have. So you can actually search by your transfer partners here. Just put in American Express, Capital One, and Chase, since those are the ones that I have. And I want to go in economy with my family. Okay, can go from JFK to Amsterdam. Now, I don't live in New York, so how am I going to get there? Well, then I would start searching for flights to New York. But to start, I would want to know where are the best deals from, and then work my way backwards from there. So a lot of great deals to be had on Seats.aero. You can search the individual airports, but the other softwares may be better for that if you have specific airports and specific dates. For me, I like to look at it a little bit more technically. It's going to depend on your preference, so try out each of these softwares. Another thing I like about this software is you can explore different programs. Say you have lots of Delta Sky miles and you're trying to figure out, okay, I want to go from North America to South America. And it will show you all the different ways that you can do that with your Delta Sky miles. And you can even sort by date, departs, arrives, airlines, seats, those kinds of things. Great way to check out different ways to spend your miles. Seats.aero also has a feature where you can look for specific kinds of seats. So ANA first class is very famous. It's very difficult to find these seats, but in certain cases like this, which is coming up, Narita to Honolulu, you can book this flight for 165,000 points on United, or if you transfer to Virgin Australia, I think it's Virgin Australia. Is that Virgin Australia? Yeah, Virgin Australia, 95,000 points. It's also bookable on ANA. They're just not showing the award space here because they don't track ANA specifically. You can also look at Qatar Q Suites. So this is one of the best business classes in the world, and it's very difficult to book it. So how do you book it? If you want to go to North America, it's probably going to be difficult to find a seat. Oh, there are some seats available. So this is one seat available to Miami on December 3. You can see that most of these seats are within the next few weeks. So again, last minute is going to be your bread and butter for most of the great seats. But if you set alerts, which I'll talk about next, that can help you as well. You can also search for flights to Europe, and then Alaska offers additional availability on Qatar Q Suites. If you pay with twice as many points, you generally don't want to do that. If you're a United Elite and you want to use plus points to upgrade, this is a great way to search for that as well. Seats.aero allows you to create alerts. What's great about this software is that you can search so many airports at different times. So I'm going to look for anything that is an American Express reward, and I also have Capital One, and I also have Chase points, and I'm going to say, I don't care. Just get me out of the East Coast, and I want to go to Europe, because once I get to Europe, I can travel cheaply in Europe. Just got to get there. And I want to search over these specific dates, and I want 2 seats in business for me and my wife, or 2 seats in premium economy, or 2 seats there. And I only want a direct flight because I don't want them to show me a bunch of connections. If you don't click this option and you have these broad airports here, like East Coast to Europe, you're going to get tons of options that show up. Maximum cost in points. I don't want them to show me all those awards on United and Delta and American that are like $400,000, so 400,000 points. So I'm just going to enter 100,000 points. Maximum cost in taxes and fees, $300. Maximum number of stops, 1 stop. I already selected direct flight, so it doesn't matter. and any fare class. This fare class thing only works if you know the exact fare class that you're looking for on a specific airline, and you can even search the specific flight number if you want that. Then you could click create the alert. You can either send it to your email or get a text message. Unfortunately, you can't do both, which is kind of a bummer. And one thing I don't like about this software is that once it gives you the alert and it says that the alert has been met, it won't re-trigger that alert. So say you found a flight, it finds you a flight from New York to London, and you're like, oh, that's great, but it turns out that date doesn't work for you. You got to go back in and you got to recreate that alert in the software. I wish there was a way that they could just leave it on and send you an alert every time it works. Seats.aero has definitely saved me thousands of dollars, especially when you create an alert, not knowing if a flight will come available, and then it gives you an email or a text and shows you it's available. But it is most useful for segment to segment. The next softwares I'm going to show you are better if you want to search from just one airport to another airport during a specific date range.